Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 5th telecom that we put together to help you guys prepare yourselves for this amazing adventure which we're going on in the summer. I'll introduce ourselves in a minute, but what we're going to be covering particularly during this telecon is all about your life as an IST. What happens on site, how you look after yourselves, how you enjoy yourselves, and going into some more detail about the program and the site itself. You're bound to have questions. A number of you have already submitted questions, and thank you for that. But as well, we have the opportunity to answer some of your questions which you might think of during the presentation tonight. You can submit those on the form. We will look at them, and at the end, we'll have an opportunity to answer some of those specific questions and give you the answers that we can as we go on. If you miss this, or if you want to come back and look at it again, you absolutely can. There's a recording of this telecon and also all the other 4 that we've run on the What Have I Missed section of the IST zone. And you and anybody else can go and have a look and remind yourselves as to what we've said. So before we go into the presentation, let me introduce ourselves. I'm Richard Holmes. You may well have seen me up on the stage at the All Adults Weekend a few weeks ago, and also at Walesby. I'm leading the UK contingent of IST to the summit in what is only a few weeks' time now. Clive is going to talk to us a bit about Jamboree Life. Chris is going to be talking to us a bit about some of the teams that are there to support and help us. Jonathan's going to talk about 1 or 2 of the training issues, and then we might have a special guest who's joining us straight from the Jamboree organising team to tell us a bit more details following a operational call he had tonight with some of the American organisers. So my first piece to talk to you about is the working life. We've got 750 IST going along, so you're not on your own. Many of them have already had a job allocated to them. There's still 1 or 2 which need to be sorted out, so don't worry, you absolutely will get a job, and you'll absolutely find out about that before we arrive. However, just because you've got a job, it doesn't mean to say that when you arrive it's going to be all ready and an easy job simply to walk into. It's quite likely that when you get on camp, things aren't going to be quite as you expected. They aren't going to be quite perhaps as the organisers had expected. So you are going to have to get stuck in right from the very word go. But that's what we're known for. Part of the reason why we as the UK are invited to bring so many IST, a greater proportion than any other contingent, is because that's absolutely what we do. We get stuck in, we fix stuff, we don't have to be asked. So keep that in mind. Your jobs aren't necessarily going to be 9 to 5 jobs. There may well be many 9 to 5 jobs, but some of them may well be overnight. You might have night shift, you might have day shifts. So be expected, and we'll talk a bit about this later on, to be working with people who maybe are not on the same shift as you. You might be living with the same people who are not on the same shift as you, and you're just going to have to respect that. The other thing that Jamboree is about is to help develop the young people, but also from an IST perspective, you yourselves have the opportunity to do things that you've never done before. It would be a great shame if you came back from the Jamboree feeling, if only I'd said yes to doing that. So do try to challenge yourselves, do try to escape your comfort zone, and say yes in the appropriate form at the appropriate time, and come back with some new experiences and new skills. I mentioned earlier on that the UK IST is known for getting stuck in. Just be aware that we're going into a situation where there are many, many cultures in close proximity, and there may well be others who have a differing work ethic. That's absolutely fine, but what I want us to maintain is the good name of the IST. We must absolutely work diligently and work hard and enjoy ourselves there. I mentioned this at the All Adults Weekend, but I'll say it again. I think it's important that you realize that when you have a job, any issues with your job have to be dealt with through your Jamboree organizing team line manager. Many of you I know have already been contacted by your line manager and beginning to form a relationship with them. That's brilliant. That's absolutely the right thing to do. So if you have a job issue, that is where you need to go for your first point of contact. Be on time, absolutely. Be on time means be on time. It doesn't mean 25 minutes late. There's going to be times when you are unavoidably delayed. If you do have a challenge in getting to your job, either because you're being delayed or because of other factors, or because maybe you're feeling unwell, please let your line manager know. We'll understand and we'll discover why a bit later on when we talk about some of the monitoring that the Jamboree organising team are going to do. But it's important that your boss knows where you were, because he is going to be monitoring your attendance. As with many of these things, what you put in, you put out, you get out of it. So approach your job really positively and aiming to enjoy it, and you will get a great experience, regardless of what your job is going to be. I know of many people who have gone to the Jamboree not feeling very positive about their jobs, not feeling that the job is very inspiring, but have had the best time that they possibly could have done. So be positive and you'll get a lot out of it.
Hi there, this is Clive. All my working life, all my volunteer life, any team that I've been part of, we have two rules. The rule number one is that actually we try to be the best. And Richard's already described how, as the UK contingent, we want our IST to contribute the most in their work jobs. But the second rule we have in any team I'm part of is that we have the most fun doing it. So your downtime when you're not at work as an IST member is really important. It's really important to so you come away from the Jamboree having a really great time, and it's really important so you get that chance to recharge your batteries, to actually, even if you had a terrible day at work, actually you get the chance to think, actually this is why I'm here, this is why I'm doing it. So do your utmost to maximize your experience. Yes, we're all there for young people, but actually if we walk away from it not having enjoyed that experience, then there's got to be something wrong. So how are you going to maximize your own experience? Well, here's a few ideas, a few challenges. The first one is to go outside that comfort zone and try and meet somebody new every day. Whether that's while you're walking around, whether it's actually just not sitting always with the same people in the restaurant, whether it's chatting to people in the queue, in the showers or whatever. Take time to meet somebody new and find their story and understand them, just as the same as we're encouraging all the young people to do. That's the same for you, because you can take those experiences back and use them. You can use them in your scouting, you can use them in talking with young people, but you can use that in your life. But also take time to meet up with those old friends. You know, if you've been to Jamborees before, is there any chance you can actually meet up with that guy that you met back in Korea or wherever it was? When I go to a World Scout Jamboree, I always make a point of looking for the US contingent for Texas. Because when I was a young person at Jamboree, I got invited out to Texas the next year and spend a month out there. So I always go and find a Jamboree contingent from Texas. So make your time to find those people that you either know or you might know, or you've got a reason for meeting up with. Every queue is an opportunity. It's not a time just to get bored. It's a time to interact with people. Make sure you start even when you land at the airport. I've always been astonished at Jamborees, how just trying to go through immigration at the airport, you suddenly see 20 different Scout uniforms, and that's 20 different people to talk to. Make sure you get outside the UK contingent. Don't just talk to the people you know. Don't just talk to people who've got that T-bear on them, but talk to everybody who's out there. One great way of making sure that you talk to people from other contingents is your work colleagues. Don't only think of those as the people at work, but actually get to know them outside. So you've had a day's working, go for a meal together, have a chat together and get to know each other even more, and they'll have a friendship group with them as well. So that's your chance to meet their friends. But as well as taking in the people, take in the Jamboree. Whether it's your downtime, whether you've got a day off, whatever it is, don't just go back to your tent and read a book. Don't hide away. Don't just find your favorite food house and stay there for the whole week, but take in the whole Jamboree experience. You know, if you're a people watcher, if you just like seeing what's going on, you can wander for hours, and believe me, at the summit, you'll be able to wander for hours and hours and still not reach the edges. But take in the Jamboree, take in what's there, and in particular, take in the young people enjoying themselves, take in that experience of the young people enjoying their Jamboree and starting to shape the world to come. Can you meet up with your county? Can you meet up with their contingent? Whatever it is, make sure you get out there. But also think about recharging those batteries. Downtime is not just a time for having the whole Jamboree, it's a time to make sure you're fit and ready to be doing your job tomorrow. So sort out all the essentials. Don't keep putting things off. And remember, if you're four in a tent, make sure you're looking after that tent. Make sure your stuff's put away and you haven't decorated the whole thing with your laundry bunting. So take care of the essentials. Remember, food is really important. If this one's anything like Japan, okay, sometimes the queues in the food hall might be a bit long at popular times, but stick in that queue because eating's really important to keep up your energy, keep you happy, keep you functioning. Treat it as fuel. Food is the king. And also check out the amazing IST program. There will be tons and tons of things for you to do. Too many things that we can mention on this, just on this call, but really read the notice around, look at the notice boards, check out the things on the app, check out the things which are displayed and pick up those opportunities. As Richard said, the key word for you is going to be yes. Not, oh, I'm not sure if I fancy that, but yes, why don't we give it a go? So rather than me try and pretend I know all about the Jamboree program, and particularly what's going on in the evening, we've got our special guest tonight. So Callum, I'm going to pass over to you. Everybody get ready for that authentic US accent.
Hello everyone, sorry to disappoint, unfortunately it's a very strong Scottish accent. My name's Callum Holt, I'm the Head of Entertainment for IST Programme, and basically my job is just that when you're not doing your job, what can we provide to keep IST engaged with the programme, and what can we do to make sure that you get to experience the Jamboree. So you'll see there, this is now the 99% confirmed layout of Camp Echo. So we've managed to confirm after 3 years of working that we will have a stage. We're going to have some sort of exhibition stage. Won't quite be like Glastonbury, I think something slightly bigger than the garden party, but we do have a stage. So we are looking for acts and performers. So if anyone's wanting to do that, please do let your IST team know and we can get in touch. We've confirmed a cinema, a yoga, a gym, which will be open as long as we can get. We're looking at sort of 12, 14 hours a day. Cinema listings, we're also looking for those. So if anyone's got any suggested movies that they'd want to watch, please let us know, because we need to get licenses for them. There have been some hilarious suggestions that came in, so please keep them coming. We've also got the Rainbow Cafe, which will be next to our welcome tent, and a dance tent, which will be kind of like a continual sort of party space, which will go on for the majority of the day. We're also getting access to saunas, and alongside that, what we've got in the listening gear / social areas is going to be the chat and chew space. So it's going to be kind of a bistro cafe space where people will come in and do mini talks and have mini chats, and there'll be some discussions and some conversations and some foods. So that's just the layout of Subcamp Echo. In terms of the wider programme, we're also starting to confirm day trips. So we're looking at half-day events and full-day events. We've now confirmed, as I said, I was hot off the press. I was off an operations call tonight. We're looking at using Eventbrite to register interest in these day trips. There'll be a payment of between $15 and $30. We're working out how that'll work internationally. If you're not interested in Eventbrite, you can also take cash. These will be in a first come, first served basis. So if you're interested in one of the trips, then you'll need to get to Subcamp Echo's welcome tent to be able to book yourself in. We're also looking at having a theme every day or every other day of the Jamboree. So something that recognises the 3 host nations. So something that's quite American themed, Canadian and Mexican themed, but alongside that, helping create events to tease out the other cultures. So we're looking at potentially doing a sort of Scottish or multi-dance day. So we can do a Ceilidh section, and then some people might want to do different dances around the world. What we're trying to do in the programme mainly is create balance. We know everyone won't be interested in going to a party every night. We know that everyone won't be interested in sitting down and doing a quiet social activity every night. So what we are trying to do right now is create a timeline where every day of the Jamboree, it will work in a structure so that if you're on alternate shifts, or if you're doing 4 days of days and 4 days of nights, that you'll still have an offer of a big party style event or a more quieter social get to know people event. There are some things that we're still trying to work out. Some of the activities going through BSA or going through the Boy Scouts of America process are still proving slightly challenging. So things like swimming, lifeguards have to be approved by Boy Scouts of America. So we're not sure yet if we can offer swimming out to IST, because we're slightly short on offer now swimming to all the participants in free time. But these are things that we're working towards and trying to achieve. So as I said at the start, the programme is still very, very live and very dynamic, and probably won't be confirmed by the time you arrive on the 18th. I'm arriving with the rest of my team the 15th to try and at least get something set up for the IST in the first night, so we can kind of do some sort of introduction thing on the 18th to the 19th. But that's the gist of where the programme is at. We're still creating lots of day trip options. There's going to be lots of team sports, multi-sports, cultural events, and there's going to be spaces just for you to be yourself and do that socialising, that getting to know people, as Clive mentioned. And if anyone's got any questions or anything that they want to ask about the programme or anything they want to feed into the programme, then I'd be more than welcome to take that.
Callum, thank you so much. It's really great to have you on the call. All of that's very exciting. It's news to many, many of us too. We've got 1 or 2 references to some of the things you're saying later on, but it's really great to have your input. And from my perspective, leading the UK IST, it's really, really important that the Jamboree absolutely recognises the contributions and the value that the IST give. I think everybody is so excited about the programs that you're offering. So thank you very much. And I think I just want to go on now to describe a little bit about how the Jamboree itself is going to be supporting the Jamboree and the IST programme as well. So I'm going to take you through a few thoughts, and then we're going to hand over to Clive again. So as Callum has said, the aim is to provide every member with an all-embracing series of activities. There are going to be 8 or so teams of individuals who are there specifically to make sure the IST life at the Jamboree is supported and is enjoyable and works smoothly. We're going to take you through a few bullets associated with each of these teams over the next couple of slides. The Jamboree IST Office, that's just going to deal with issues, general information, help desk, stuff like that. It's going to be open pretty much all of the daytime, 6 to 10. It's the place that Jamboree organising team is setting up as their office. Don't forget, we've also got our UK contingent office, which is going to be on the hill above the arena. We've mentioned that before. That's where you go to get UK contingent specific information. There's a separate office to support you, which has been organised by Callum and his team. Post. I know we're living in the electronic age, but there is the opportunity of getting post to and also from the site. I'm not going to go through the details of how you address it. It's here. You can refer to it later on. It's on the slides from the All Adults Week weekend as well. But just remember that when you send something home, if you put a return address on it, make sure it's your home return address and not the Jamboree one. Otherwise, it'll be lost in the ether if it doesn't get delivered. Clive's going to talk us a little bit now about some of the programme teams that are going on. I hope.
Sorry, forgot to unmute there before I started. I've got a couple of slides here to talk about program, but really it's just adding to the sorts of things that Callum was talking about. And generally, I would say, go on the site, have a look around what's there. But most importantly, when you're at the event, just keep your eyes open. Look out for notice boards, look out for things which are displayed, and just say, yes, I fancy that. So there'll be stuff around Echo Subcamp, as Callum was just explaining. If you're feeling like doing stuff, there's stuff to do. If you're feeling like sitting back and chilling in a coffee bar or in the chat and chew, then the stuff that that'll be there. The swimming in Tickle Lake. Now, I don't know whether you've come across Tickle Lake already. There's been great excitement and not a fair few exchanges on the CST pages about what Tickle Lake might be like. But I understand it's just a lake for swimming in. But there's lots of things going on. The things you'd expect of the Jamboree, that chance to chill out and take it on. But it's not only about on-site. You can get off the subcamp as well. If we're on the next slide, we got the off-site things. So this might be
technical hitch here. Why is it not doing it?
So
yeah,
off-site.
There we go.
Oh no, we've gone too far now. It's got carried away. So off-site.
Yeah, I've got carried away. There we go.
It's really talking about off the subcamp, so there's a chance to have a tour of the site, and just remember the scale of that. However much you try to explore on your own, you're bound to miss things. But also opportunities to get out, go hiking in the local area, to visit local towns or local attractions. And even adventurous activities like whitewater rafting, which will be off-site, but also the on-site activities when they're not being used by participants. Again, the key is keep your eyes open. What's going to be available when? I can't answer those questions for you tonight, but keep your eyes peeled for those opportunities. And remember, if you're working in one of the activity teams, you might be putting an extra shift in order to allow the IST to come and have a chance to experience those things. The Culture Day, for several of the IST, this will be a day off, particularly if you're involved in on-site program, but not the Culture Day itself. The whole idea of the Culture Day for the participants is it's their chance to show off their culture in terms of their scouting, their activities, national costumes, dances, and the bit that always gets everybody excited, food. I remember the first time I did a culture day, you probably won't be able to eat for 3 days if you really put your effort into this and wander around sampling everything that's on offer. It's a chance to drop in and drop out of things. And as well as participating, you're fully free to participate around the event to share that. And it truly is magnificent. But it's also, you can contribute as well. As the IST, you can actually book things on stage. As a group of you decide you want to show the famous Northumbrian welly dance or something, then you can book the stage in a slot and be able to share your particular culture with everybody else to enjoy. Because this is a day off for a number of people, I stress not for everybody, it depends what your job is. There's also opportunities for off-site excursions on this day. To be honest, I think I'd enjoy that bit of the Jamboree because for me, it's always one of the favourites. And then in the evening, there's a Unity show. So that's a show where people come together in the arena. What's it going to be? I don't know, but I'm quite sure it will be something spectacular. Obviously, if you're rotated onto work, you can't go to it, I'm afraid, but there will be the opportunity for the other stage shows at the opening and the closing ceremony, which you can join in.
So I've got the fun bit after all the really boring stuff with our presentation so far. So the IST Training Team, as we'll have probably drilled into you so far in over the last few months, training is an essential part of your preparation for the Jamboree. The online training is now available, and that includes the Safe from Harm training that must be completed by all adults attending the Jamboree ahead of arriving. We're aware there's a significant number of adults already completed it, but there's a good significant portion that haven't yet completed it. If you do not complete this ahead of arriving on site, you'll be expected to have a long wait to complete this 2 to 3 hour training before you're even allowed into the registration centre, noting that the registration centre isn't actually even on site. In addition to the Safe from Harm training, we've got the IST training modules, which are voluntary modules to take you through some of the aspects of the Jamboree life. And then you also note for some of you, particularly those that are on things like trading posts and shops, there is some training to do with taking money and processing card payments. In addition to the IST Jamboree training, also remember there's a UK IST training. For those who haven't completed this yet, you'll have received an email in the last few days chasing you up to do this. Please ensure this is done by the deadline set in that email. There's then the IST Allocation Team. They're probably the people that you'll first meet at the Jamboree. As we just said, the Ruby Welcome Centre isn't actually welcoming you on site because the Ruby Welcome Centre isn't on site. It's about a 20-minute drive down the road. On arrival, you'll be met by this IST meet and greet team who'll take you through the registration process. Once completing the registration process, they'll also make sure you get on the right bus, whether that's to Echo Subcamp or another base camp that you'll be staying on. Please ensure when you do register, however, that you do check which subcamp you need to be on and which bus you need to get on. The last thing you want to do is arrive on site at the wrong place and have a long walk to get to your tent. The on-site team will also be dealing with on-site issues relating to your work and any other inquiries you have about the Jamboree, and these should be your first point of call for any queries you might have. And finally, the IST Accountability Team. As Richard and Clive already alluded to, a big part of the Jamboree is made by the IST doing their roles and putting their most into them. We expect that all IST turn up to their roles when they're supposed to, and the Jamboree organisers believe in the same. They will therefore be making sure that the IST do turn up to their role and tracking this. And if you do not turn up to your role, they are looking to chase people up on this and have consequences for not turning up. So therefore, please be honest with your line manager if there's a reason why you cannot turn up for any reason, so they're not chasing you and they're not putting the young people's experience at risk by not having the ISTs to support their activities. So I'm going to hand back to Clive, who's going to go through, or was it Richard, go back through some of the IST support team stuff.
Thank you. That was a great cue to remember me to unmute. Okay, so we've talked about the work, we talked about the fun. Let's just talk a little bit about the help that's out there if things aren't going right. You might have heard people talk about listening ear. If you've been to a Jamboree before, you'll be familiar with this. If you've not, let me just explain what the listening ear is. Well, actually, it says what it says on the tin. They're people who are there to listen to you. Whatever it is you want to talk about, whatever your concern is, whatever you worry about, or even, to be honest, even if you're happy and just want to tell somebody. You know, it's easy to think if you're with 45,000 friends from around the world that you can't be lonely or down. But the reality is it can happen sometimes. Even if you're the most positive person in the world, just sometimes you might just want somebody to talk to. The listening ear team are there to do that. Where will you find them? They'll be on your subcamp. They'll be at subcamps across the place. Doesn't matter going to the right listening ear. They'll be there. They'll be easy to find, and they're there to hear from you. Or you might just want to chill out. There's a quiet area on the IST subcamp. Rather than having the action-packed, full-on fun all the time, you might just want to be quiet and chill. Excuse me. And so there'll be a quiet place where you can just chat, you can be peaceful, you can be still. It's worth noting that with listening ear, there'll be people from all around the world. They're not just from the organizing team, and some of those will be UK people. You might find it easier to share something with a person from the UK because you feel they'll understand. You might not want to share it with somebody from the UK because it's a bit close to home. Hey, that's your choice. They're there to listen to you when you need it. Another way of making sure you get the most is to look at the IST Awards. The IST Awards team are going to be there to encourage you to meet together with international teams and they get involved in a series of different things. If you like, they're a little bit like the fun police, I guess. They'll be working hard to try and make sure you're not out there on your own, but you're integrating, you are mixing with people. And the way you do that, just like the scouting method, is actually to give you the focus of doing something together, an IST award. By involving people in that experience, then it means that hopefully the whole experience, the work that you deliver, what we do for young people would be much better quality. Well, you'll have probably seen online the Novus wristband and the app that goes with it on your mobile phone. So no longer are you going to be gathering bits of paper and writing down phone numbers or web addresses on your hand. Actually, you're going to be tapping these wristbands and you're going to be collecting information about people you want to share, people you want to meet up with afterwards, but also using them to register some of the things you've done. Exactly what it's about? Well, there'll be more news on the website soon, and if you don't get it then, don't worry. Just go and ask in the IST office, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. What else should we think about? Well, one day, everything's not going to be perfect. Yeah, the whole Jamboree experience is going to be wonderful, but some mornings you'll wake up and think, well, this is a bit too much. Or, wow, I've been overdoing this a bit. I'm absolutely worn out. Don't expect to be 100% every day. Recognize the signs in yourself and give yourself permission to actually just fall back a little bit. Don't feel you have to be 100% all the time. It's okay to chill. It's okay, as long as you're not meant to be at work, to have a lie-in. It's okay to have a shower later in the day. Yeah, just pace yourself because we're there for a long time. If you've already done your online training, you'll have seen the importance that they place in terms of buddying up when it comes to looking after people. The idea that actually you've got somebody who's looking out for you and you're looking out for them. That actually you're looking at them and actually asking the questions, you know, are they a bit down? Are they showing signs of being a bit frazzled at the edges? And then actually having the courage to talk and say, hey, look, buddy, let's go for a cup of coffee, or hey, buddy, you better go for a shower. Look out for changes in behavior in your buddy. They could be signs of stress or fatigue or worries or concerns. You're there to help each other. If there are medical issues, then there'll be medical resources on site. And again, if you've done the safe from harm training, you'll have seen actually how they encourage you to go there. Don't be scared to actually take yourself along if there are issues, and particularly if there are, you're thinking of mental health issues or anything of that nature. Don't worry about calling a false alarm. And then the final one there, sleep properly. Now, the other day in CST, we had an exchange with Lee, who's organising the schedule. And I said, you know, I need at least 8 hours. Well, I don't know what your particular time is, but make sure you get it. None of us function well if we try and burn the candle both ends. So make sure you get to bed, you get your sleep, and you get up refreshed and ready to go in the morning.
So just a reminder then, in terms of support, I just wanted to confirm the difference between the UK contingent support and the Jamboree support. Absolutely on site, your first point of contact for anything to do with your job is your job manager, as I mentioned before. Anything to do with medical, clearly there's a huge medical infrastructure of professionals to help sort you out. If you've got subcamp issues, well, there's a subcamp team to sort you out. The UK contingent are there to look after your pastoral needs. If you need advice, if you've got any issues that can't be resolved in any of the above, don't be coming to us asking for a new tent peg because you bust one of yours. That's not what we're there for. We're there to look after you as IST. We're there to make sure that you have a great time, and we are there to make sure that you get the best out of this experience that you possibly can. We are going to have a presence on Echo, and the UK contingent office will be at the World Point, which, as I said, is just up from the arena. It will be open 24/7. It'll be open to drop in between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the evening. You're more than welcome to come in and say hello. There will be people in the tent, in the office, 24/7 to respond to emergencies. So don't put off contacting the UK contingent office if there is an emergency. We are there to help. We're there to look after you. We're there to support you. We will be publishing the telephone number in due course. There will also be the WhatsApp opportunity, and also, of course, our Events Air app as well. So don't feel lonely, don't feel alone. There's somebody there 24/7 to look after you. So remember, coming to the final few slides now, enjoy it. You've paid a lot of money. You've taken time off work. You must have a good time. So enjoy yourselves. And the best way of doing that is really making sure those young people have a great time. It's going to change their lives. You don't know what that 30-second interaction you have with a young person is going to do. You don't know how it's going to impact their lives. You don't know in 30 years that they're not going to remember that very moment that you were there talking to them. Rejoice in that, reflect in that, and be proud that you've helped these young people do that. Help them, be kind, be courteous. A Jamboree, for those of you who haven't been, is an amazing place. Everybody is so positive. Everybody is so welcoming. It's not going to be difficult to find new friends, and it's not going to be difficult to talk to new people. It will just happen. It's nothing you need to be concerned about. So at the All Adult Weekend, a number of you were in my workshop session when we played point lists. I promised that I'd let you know some of the answers that came out of that, and this is the first opportunity we've got. We asked you to think of 6 things that you'd pack in your holder or to take with you to make your Jamboree life easier. We had an amazing number of great answers. I just wanted to share one or two of them with you. These are the items on the list that had the most suggestions. And if only on that basis, you must presume, therefore, they must be an extremely good idea to have in your hold all. So just a few extra things to pack: gaffer tape, earplugs. I know that many of you are choosing tent buddies. Some of you won't be choosing tent buddies. Earplugs might be helpful. Shower shoes, they're always very useful to have. String and cable ties, absolutely. There's not an awful lot of space needed for those, so chuck a few in. You never know when you're going to be called upon to fix something. Dry sacks for your laundry, a washing line for washing up your for hanging up your laundry. Quite a few people said they were going to be taking their teddy bear or cuddly toy, which I think is a very, very important reminder of home. Tent decorations. There's not going to be an awful lot to differentiate one tent from another, if you remember looking back on that slide a few slides ago. So if you do have anything to decorate the outside of your tent with, then by all means bring it, bunting or battery powered fairy lights or anything like that. It always helps you find your own tent. Travel wash, of course, to do all your laundry with, and rehydration salts. For those of you who are in Japan, remember that we had issued rehydration salts. Wonderful stuff it was too. It's all part of looking after yourself. But there were some ideas that had very few suggestions, but in some way those are the ones that actually are the less obvious ones, but must be really good ideas too. Somebody suggested taking a shower engaged sign. I'm not completely sure that the showers are going to be very secure. I think they're going to be kind of in communal areas with curtain walling, so a shower engaged sign would be helpful. A watch. Now, somebody made the point that with all of our technology, our phones and everything, sometimes we don't take watches. It's really important that we have something that we can rely on. Your phone might have gone out of battery. You need to be places on time. Take a wash. Other bits and pieces, travel sync plug, pillows, sewing kit. Always stick a sewing kit in. You never know how many badges you're going to need to sew on. Small carabiners, they're useful for collecting stuff to your rucksack and carrying stuff around. So you can see there's a whole load of ideas, and all of those now, all 150 of them, are on the What Have I Missed section of the website. So do have a look, and don't forget there's all these videos of these teleconferences and all of the sessions from All Adult Weekend, and indeed from the weekend that we had in Walesby last year. Do go back and have a look at them. There's some hugely valuable stuff in there. So I just wanted to finish off before we invited questions by reminding why we're there. As IST, it is our responsibility to make sure that the young people have a great time. And therefore, it is our responsibility to do our job, because those young people are relying on us. If we weren't there, they couldn't do the stuff. It is our responsibility to look after ourselves. So Clive's talked about eating, he's talked about sleeping, he's talked about washing, he's talking about, you know, taking time out to rest. It's our responsibility to do that. It's not a nice to have, it's our responsibility. Every one of the UK IST has gone through a rigorous program of selection. So part of that selection process was to make sure that if you are faced with an issue, you could overcome that issue. As IST, it's our responsibility to solve problems as far as possible. Clearly, there are times when you're going to need help, and we would welcome that. We'd give you that help that was you needed. But to be honest with you, we don't want people coming and asking us how to tie their shoelace, because that's what we're looking for you guys as IST to do. We come from a great history of scouting in the UK. We know Ben Powell was here. He started off here. So we absolutely are representatives of UK scouting and UK guiding. Everything that we do will be seen by somebody, and it's our responsibility to uphold the great values and the great name that UK scouting has across the world. It's also our responsibility to give something back to our home groups. Clive mentioned it earlier on. Take something back, learn something new. There are going to be those people who aren't as fortunate as us, who will not benefit from going to the Jamboree. Take some learning back, take some inspiration back, give them the challenge and give them the chance to maybe think about going next year or apply next year to maybe some of the other international events we've got. So we do have responsibilities, and of course the greatest responsibility is actually to enjoy ourselves as well. So thank you very much for listening. We're going to go on to questions now. The way this is going to work is that Jonathan has been looking at the questions that you've all submitted online. He's going to be throwing those questions out to Clive or me, or potentially even Callum if he's still on the line. And we're going to do our best to answer those questions. If we know the answer and we can tell you, we'll tell you. If we don't know the answer, we will tell you that we don't know the answer. So Jonathan, it's kind of over to you to compare this part of the question and answer session.
Thank you, Richard. I think if we can knock on to the next slide, that's probably a best place to start with the first question we've had in. So the first question we've had in is, how do we pick our tent buddies? So hopefully everyone received an email on Monday evening with some information from the All Adult weekend, some other information on various things such as Fairfax, easy fundraising, asking you to fill out a survey about the All Adult weekend. And included in that email for some of you was the opportunity to select either your post-event buddies and your tent buddies for the Jamboree. Now, not everyone can choose a UK contingent tent buddy, and that's because for some people they will be staying within their Jamboree role, so they'll be staying with their teams and their tents are being allocated that way. And if that's the case for you, the email tells you that. And for the others, there is a link in that email to select your tent buddies and the rules around that and how to go about choosing them. And the same applies for post-event. So those on post-event were given the option to tell us who you may want to share with in Washington, DC. Now, we've got quite a short turnaround for that because we need to get the information back to the organisers. They've got a very short window to sort it out as well. So we need the information back by the 10th of June, which is next week at 6 p.m. So if you haven't read that email, please make sure you pick up that email and take a good read of it and chat around to your friends and see who you may want to share with. So Richard, on to the next question. Some people say they're a bit nervous about their job, maybe worried that they're not going to like it, or they might turn up and not like it. What's your advice for them in that situation?
So the first thing I'd say is give it a go. I think it's inevitable that some people will be allocated jobs that they perhaps wouldn't have put their hands up originally and chosen. But from my experience of Jamborees, so many people have reported back and said, you know, I didn't really like the idea of going and being an overnight security guard, but actually I had a brilliant time. The people who I met were part of my team, were brilliant. We socialized, we had fun, we had a laugh, we met loads of new people. So I think it's natural to be nervous, but my first response is give it a go. If, however, there are issues, raise them up with your line manager on site. If that then becomes a real issue, that's when the UK contingent office and help desk is there to help you. We want you to enjoy yourselves, and if there's anything that gets in the way of enjoying yourself, we want to hear about it. So it's natural to be nervous. Give it a go, see how it feels, as we said before, kind of say yes. All right.
Thank you, Richard. Callum, we've had a question in about what opportunity IST may have to get involved in some of the amazing on-site activities that the participants will be doing. Particularly, this question actually related to whitewater rafting, but I think generally questions around what they can get involved with as IST.
Yeah, so as I said earlier for anyone that missed it, the idea is that there'll be lots of day trip opportunities. They're still getting confirmed, but it does include whitewater rafting, hiking, day trips, different places, and even tours around the sites, as well as access to some of the on-site activities. The opportunity to get to do them will be available to all IST. We're trying to do it so that regardless of what job you're doing or what shift you're doing, you should get an option to take part in some of the activities. What we can't guarantee is that there might be a free slot for the thing you're dying to do. And that's just the nature of capacity. But we're looking at Eventbrite, and we're looking at how we utilise Eventbrite to sort of manage people potentially taking up all the activities that they want and not giving other people a chance to take part in things. So we are doing our best to try and manage access to activities, so we make sure that everyone who's on IST gets an option to take part in something. So as far as I'm aware, the food hall for IST will have TV screens in it, which will give what activities are on for that day and for the next day. So I would just say keep an eye on the information screens, and as soon as something comes up that's interesting, either try and book it on Eventbrite straight away or book it through the IST team. And there will be a small cost for some of them, but just as soon as something comes up that interests you, just get yourself booked on it straight away.
Thanks a lot, Callum. I think I reflect everything you say there. Obviously, the young people will have first access to the activities, but yeah, the aim is to try and give IST as much opportunity as possible to take part in them. Richard, got a question around work schedules. When do we expect IST to get their work schedule so they know when they're going to be working on site?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I don't know when every single IST is going to get their own individual work schedule. The work schedules are defined and designed by the line managers, the members of the Jamboree organising team who are responsible for that particular area of work. I suspect, as with all things, there may well be those that have got their eye on the ball and are already thinking about schedules. There may well be those who don't quite have their eye on the ball and haven't even started thinking about schedules yet. If you reflect back to the slide earlier on where I said, don't expect everything to be set up and ready for you, it may well even be that the first meeting that you have with your line manager is sitting around a pile of kit, saying, right, well, we need to set this site up, we need to set this event up, and we also need to work out who is going to do what and when they're going to do it. So there's a whole range of answers to that question, and it is absolutely dependent on your Jamboree line managers. This is one of the differences between the UK contingent support and the line management support. That's not a question that the UK contingent can answer at the moment, and anything like that should, in due course, when we get to the Jamboree, go through your line manager to help answer.
I can maybe give context to that, Richard, if that's helpful. We had the management call tonight for the Jamboree organising team, and all of the line managers have been told to try and make initial contact with their teams by next week. That won't be work schedules, but just now we're in a space where we're still allocating teams because people from some countries are still being denied visas. So the priority right now is to make contact with teams and try and set up spaces for communication. And as Richard said, that might mean creating work schedules beforehand, but the main focus from a Jamboree organising perspective is actually just to make contact with people and make sure that people are able to still commit to the Jamboree and sort of try and create a social atmosphere between the teams before you arrive on site.
Thanks, Callum. I think that's really important to echo. We've got a question here on what happens if I have an incident, require medical treatment, and what happens with the costs and cover. So to answer this question simply, the Jamboree site has some fantastic medical facilities. The visits that our contingent team have taken to the site have shown that these facilities are out of this world. So if you were to unfortunately have an accident or an incident requiring medical treatment, there's first aiders around, and if you need to, you'll be dealt in a local first aid room on the base camps. And then if you need to, you'll be escalated up to the on-site hospital, which has some fantastic facilities. All of this treatment is covered by the Jamboree organisers' insurance. So when you're on site, there's insurance taken out by the Jamboree organisers to cover the cost of your treatment while you're on site. If your incident or your medical condition is serious enough to warrant you to go off-site to a hospital, you'll be taken to hospital, and at that point there is again insurance to cover those medical needs, so you do not have to worry about that. If you were unfortunate enough to have to be going off-site to hospital, also if you were submitted to the Jamboree hospital for any reason, the UK contingent would be notified, and our support team would get in touch with you to make sure you have the assistance you need. Means you don't have to worry about things like finances if you unfortunately in that situation. So I hope that answers that question. Rest your minds on that one. Clive, you've got a question, and probably one for you actually, based on your experiences of previous Jamborees, about just dealing with stressful situations at your work. Maybe something goes really badly wrong, and different coping mechanisms that you found particularly good for dealing that situation.
Is that for me, Jonathan?
If you mind, Clive.
Yeah, sure. I think, I mean, the Jamboree is no different really to anything like that. You know, if you've got a problem, the first thing to do is to think about it and think, is it really a problem? You know, is it just not everything that you'd expect, or actually is it something that needs to be put right? As Richard said, you know, you might, the job might not be exactly what you thought it was going to be, but hey ho, is that really a problem? Or do you just say, you know what, I'm going to have a great time for this 2 weeks, so you just get on and do it. If there's something that needs fixing, if you know, it's not working out with your work colleagues, or you feel perhaps certain team members are pulling their weight, the next thing to do is to talk together. You know, you're a team. Everybody's there as a volunteer. You're all in the same boat. Well, do that, communicate. If you're feeling that way, then I'm sure some other members of your team are feeling that way. So actually see if you can resolve it as a team. Then if it doesn't work, you'll have a boss. You'll have a line manager that you can actually say, well, look, actually, I'm sorry, but this isn't working, or there's a problem, or the team will feel this person isn't pulling their weight, or whatever it is, but you'll have a boss to go to. If that really doesn't work, then there will be the central point in the IST to take it. But I'd be very surprised if you had something to take there, and I'd be, you know, you just think practically, can people actually fix this problem? Or in the context of all these people, all these scouts in one place, the resolution, the most satisfactory resolution, probably lies in your own hands.
Thank you, Clive. I think that answers it really well. That's all the questions that we've had submitted on the call tonight. Of course, if you do have other questions, please check the FAQs and drop us an email. And that probably leads us on to our next telecom, really, which is going to be in a few weeks' time. So our next teleconference is going to be on the 4th of July, and it's titled The Final Countdown. We've left this fairly open because there's going to be lots of information just before we want to depart that we want to share with you, but also we're aware that as you get closer and you think about the Jamboree more and more, there may be more and more questions that come to mind. So this final countdown telecon is all about asking questions to the UK contingent and us giving you last minute information. So please have a think about your questions. You can submit the questions in advance. If you go to the IST Top Tips Telecon webpage, there's a submission form putting questions in, so fire them in there as well, and we can answer them on that call. Which leaves us really to say thank you. Thanks for all our presenters, in particular Callum, who joined us tonight to share that extra information. And we hope that was really useful for you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next telecom. Good night.